Hey everyone, this is Michael for Home Grace Bible Studies. This is my mom. We're here again bringing you a message of hope. And this is specifically geared toward those who find themselves judged for whatever reason. And this is, October 26th, 2017. That means in a few days, it's going to be Halloween! And a day that I'm looking forward to. And if you're a believer, you might find that there are some people in your life that are down on you for celebrating Halloween, if you celebrate Halloween at all. You know, if you're a parent and you have little ones and you take them out trick-or-treating, and some people say, you shouldn't be taking your children out trick-or-treating on such a horrid day, or, junk like that. Well, this message is for you if you have to put up with folks like that each October. I'm reading from King James Bible. Hope you will be too. Follow along with me, and if you don't have a King James Bible, just watch this video as many times as you need. I'm starting in Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Actually, this is part of a little factoid not many people know. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is actually part of the Old Testament. So I'll be starting in the Old Testament. I'm going to be reading Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. This is Jesus speaking. He says, judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye, and he was speaking to all the Jews, judge, ye shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. So basically, whatever links you use to judge someone, he's saying that's going to come back to you. Verse 3, and why beholdest thou the mote that is in thine brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? So he's saying there in verse 3, look, why are you going on about this silly stuff when you think that you're seeing this problem in your brother's eye, but yet you're not looking at yourself, what may be going on in your own life, and yet you're quick to judge your brother or your sister because they're taking their little ones out trick-or-treating. And we know that's the case. We know people do that. And then it says in verse 4, how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? They're saying, okay, you're trying to correct your brother or your sister's problem, and yet while you're doing that, there's a problem in your own life.
A bigger problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there might be a bigger problem in that person's life when they're trying to correct a brother or sister. And then Jesus says in verse 5, thou hypocrite. Now he's getting mean here. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye. Take care of your own problems first. And then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote in thy brother's eye. First take care of your own issues, then worry about your brother or sister.
Very good.
If you take care of your own issues, then if you think it's so wrong that a brother or sister take their little ones out trick-or-treating, then talk to them after you've taken care of your own life. Okay, now let's go to Luke chapter 6.
And do you think he's sort of saying, don't judge because you've got big problems yourself, and by the time you get yours solved, you'll have more issues, and so unless you're spotless, then don't judge other people.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, exactly. Okay, and Luke chapter 6, verse, let me see here. I'm going to read verses 36, 37, and yeah, verses 36 and 37. Jesus Christ speaking here in Luke chapter 6, verses 36 and 37. He says, and so many people love to say, oh, if it's not in the four Gospels, then I don't want to hear about it. Okay, we're reading from the four Gospels right now, so listen up. Verse 36. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. I know that's a word that many people don't like to hear today. Merciful, that's related to compassionate.
Cut people some slack.
Just because you think that Halloween is a bad day doesn't mean that another person is using it for the very same purpose that it may have originated from. Verse 37, Jesus says, judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Now, this was during the age of law, because this was when there was conditions for forgiveness. Because listen to what he says. This is Jesus Christ speaking, not me. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Well, Christ has already forgiven us on the cross. This was before the cross. So this was a totally different set of rules, you see. But the impact here is, if you apply this to your social setting with your neighbor or your brother or sister in Christ, if you don't judge them, if you don't condemn them, then they're not going to come back and do the same to you. Because who likes to be judged? Who likes to be condemned for doing something they enjoy, such as taking your little ones, your children, out trick-or-treating, once a year. One time a year. Who enjoys hearing people say, you shouldn't do that? I don't hear it, and Mom doesn't hear it, but yet I know there's going to be someone on social media who will take it upon themselves to tell everyone else, you shouldn't do this. That not much has changed in more than 2,000 years.
That's true.
Okay, go over to chapter 12 of Luke. Let's see here. Here we go. Let's see. Verses 56, 57, and verses 56 and 57. Ye hypocrites, Jesus Christ speaking again here. Ye can discern the face of the sky and of the earth, but how is it that ye do not discern the time? How is it that you can do all of this stuff, but you can't do one simple task? Verse 57. Yea, why even of yourselves judge ye not what is right? If you can do all this stuff in your life, suppose you're a very intelligent person, you can do lots of stuff that most of us can't. Well, what makes you think that you can tell someone else to do what's right when you can't even keep your own situation straight? Keep yourself focused on you. You know, if you can't do that much, which is right, you know. And it says in 1st or 2nd Thessalonians, study to keep, and I'm paraphrasing, study to work with your, so you, to learn, to study to be quiet. You know, something to that effect. You know, I don't have it correct, but you know, we don't need to be telling other people what to do one day a year when sometimes we can't even discern what's right, or when you, the person who's judging, can't even discern what's right. Okay, so go to the Gospel of John, chapter 5.
Don't you think that people that judge are very negative?
I do.
And I know this one person, and they are very negative, and it's like anything that happens, they see something bad in it instead of looking for the good. And I think we need to look for the good in people and the good in what they're doing. And I think one thing we need to do is become aware. Even Jesus said, not to judge.
And he gave reasons why.
Yes, and so I think one good thing to do is when you find yourself judging, say, "Uh-oh, I'm judging." Even if you just say it silently, and you find yourself judging someone to their face or in your mind or whatever, and it's a habit that needs to be broken if you have this habit.
I mean, there are good reasons to judge and there are bad reasons to judge. But so many people focus on the negative in life. Yes, Halloween does have an origin, like everything. And it's not such a great origin. But the origin is not what the holiday is presently.
Right. Now it's just a social event for little children to dress up and go from door to door with their parents. It's a nice family activity, and I enjoy passing the candy out.
And yes, some little girls dress up as fairies, mythical beings. Some dress up as devils, others as skeletons.
It's all in good fun.
It's all in good fun, and yet I know some people would bring out the verse that says something about the appearance of evil, abstain from the appearance of evil, or something like that. But it's this can be used for two reasons: to give life or to take it.
Yes.
You can use this book, the Bible. You can use it to give life to somebody, and I don't mean physical life. I mean eternal life. You can use this book to tell someone about the gospel, 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 through 4, which saves them today. You can use this book to give someone life. Or you can use this book to take someone's life. You can misquote verses and use them to criticize and beat someone over the head with it until they feel so depressed that their life is gone.
Well, and they think, well, how could I ever be a Christian? If this person is beating me up like this, I must be terrible.
And then you have the third party, the unbeliever who is watching all of these events unfold, and they think to themselves, gee, my friends have told me about this God that saves, but all these people are so mean. I don't think I want to have anything to do with a God that's like that. So we are responsible for our actions.
Exactly. What we say, what we do.
And if you hear the sound coming from that sounds like it's behind us or from to the side, there's a fall parade going on. I don't know what they're celebrating. Just the arrival of fall.
Yeah.
So that's fine for them, but I wanted to be here to talk to you today about what was concerning me. So I decided, I'll another year I may go and see that parade if they continue it. But right now, this is more important right here. John says in chapter 5, verse 22, he says, "For the Father judgeth no man, but hath committed all judgment unto the Son." So God is not judging anyone today, and I go by and I can point, and you can go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 19 for that, and verse 20. But but the judgment was committed unto the Son, and Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for us and took on all of our sin. He became sin. He was buried for 3 days, and then he rose from the dead 3 days later, so we could be saved.
He didn't want to judge us to death. He wanted to save us. And he was pure and sinless himself, but he took on the sins of all mankind and died the sin death for everyone because he loves us and he wants to spend eternity with us in heaven, which we could not do on our own.
Exactly. In John chapter 7, verses 24. Yeah, verse 24. I'm just going to read this one. Jesus says, "Judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment." So he's saying you can judge, but it has to be righteous, as in right is right, as in correct. Has to be righteous judgment. Oh yeah, you can be filled with righteous indignation all you want.
Yes.
But to feel that way over something like a holiday, that's not that. That's called indoctrination.
Well, and when he said, "Judge not by appearance," I think he meant don't be so quick to judge when you see something or you hear something just because you think what they're doing or saying or how they're living is wrong. You don't go by the appearances. The judgment is in what's in their heart and how how they think and how they believe.
And I think Jesus referred to appearance in verse 24 because of what he said in verse 23. He said, "If a man on the Sabbath day receive circumcision, that the law of Moses should not be broken. Are ye angry at me because I have made a man every whit whole on the Sabbath day?" Are you judging a person because of what Christ has did for them during his earthly ministry. So that's judging by appearance, I would say, in that instance. But today it could be portrayed as in, are you judging a person because they're dressed up and have their little boy dressed up as a little devil? When there's a whole difference between how a person dresses and how they actually think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing Batgirl for crying out loud. So does that make me a vigilante? No. John chapter 8, verses 15 and 16. Jesus says, "Ye judge after the flesh. I judge no man." He's saying this to the Jews. Ye judge after the flesh. He says, you look at people and judge them based on what you see.
Mm-hmm.
He says in verse 16, "And yet if I judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone, but I and the Father, but I and the Father that sent me." So he's saying, the Father sent me to judge.
The final judgment.
And that will happen one day. And he's saying to the Jews that they judge after the flesh, by what a person appears to be. Okay, now let's go to John chapter 12. So, because you see your neighbor out on Halloween, or you may know that they're planning on going trick-or-treating. That gives no one the right to say, you shouldn't be doing that. These people are doing it to have a good time, not to hear the condemnation of someone else.
Well, and also don't judge because they don't go out on Halloween or they don't give out candy. That's their choice.
Exactly. Some people rather just stay inside.
Mm-hmm. And you just shake the dust off your feet and move on to the next house.
That's okay too. Let's see. Now this is specifically that this was when Jesus was addressing the Jewish people here in what he's saying, John chapter 12 verses 47 and 48. This does not exactly apply to this subject, but these are good verses.
Mm-hmm.
"And if any man hear my words and believe not, I judge him not. For I came not to judge the world, but to save the world. He that rejecteth me," and of course he's referring to the Jewish people, "and receiveth not my words," which, the Jews did not receive him, "hath one that judgeth him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day," which has not yet occurred. Now we're going to the epistles of Paul, starting with Romans chapter 2. This does not exactly reflect this subject, but it's a powerful verse in and of itself, and one that I like. It kind of applies here.
Mm-hmm.
Paul wrote Romans 2 verse 16. "In the day," he's giving a time frame. "In the day when God shall judge the secrets of man by Jesus Christ, according to my gospel." Now, he says the secrets of man. I'm saying this to you because I don't want you going out and saying to someone else that you shouldn't be out here with your kid influencing them and all this evil stuff, because you know that here in your heart you have got your own secrets,
That's true.
and the one day they are going to be judged. I've got secrets. Everybody's got secrets.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another reason not to judge people who enjoy this one day out of the year.
Good point.
365 days out in the year, and it's just one day. Okay, now we're staying in Romans, but going to chapter 14. Verses 3 and 4. Now this is Paul talking about someone who I believe celebrates the Sabbath. He says, "Let him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let him not let him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let him which eateth not judge him that eateth, for God hath received him. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall be holden up, for God is able to make him stand." Well, not everyone has a master here on the earth, but everyone works for, I'd say 99.9% of people here on earth work for someone. So that makes them a servant. And so if someone's servant doesn't want to eat something, or they don't want to do something, or they are doing something, it's not another person's place to judge their actions. Okay, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 2. Here in the King James Bible, we read in verses 14 and 15. But the natural man, and this is getting more into the spiritual aspect, but the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can they know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Like I said, the spiritual aspect. But he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. Now, notice here. I know someone's saying, "But you've been saying not to judge, not to judge." Well, there is a difference. There is a difference. In verse 15, he says, "But he that is spiritual," because he's talking about the natural man in verse 14. The natural man is the one who's going to judge another person for going out trick-or-treating or dressing up as a devil or a pixie or a fairy or a skeleton or whatever. And yes, I know some people are going to call themselves Christians that will judge others. That makes me, skeptical about some people. Are they really saved if they concentrate on such trivial outward appearances? But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolish unto him. Neither can he know them. So the natural man is going to be the one who judges someone else for enjoying Halloween. But the spiritual man, but he that is spiritual judges all things, yet he himself is judged of no man. The spiritual man makes the judgment. Is Halloween good or is it bad? The spiritual man makes the judgment for himself, but it does not necessarily go out saying to everybody, hey, this holiday rocks. You should really turn up the volume. Or this is a bad holiday. You shouldn't celebrate it. No, the spiritual man doesn't do that. The spiritual man judges for himself. There is a big difference between the natural and the spiritual. Okay, I go to chapter 6, verses 4 and 6 in 1 Corinthians. Paul wrote, if then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life presently, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the church. Now he says, if you've got concerns about this life, this present life, let them be handled by someone in your local assembly, not by yourself. Verse 5, I speak to your shame. It is so that there is not a wise man among you? No, not one that shall be able to judge between his brethren. Paul was asking, but he was at the same time sort of trying to get them to think about their actions and about the way they had been behaving toward others, I believe. And we see that, every year. There's a couple more places I want to visit. This is a wonderful day out of the entire year. I enjoy it. I love seeing the little kids dress up. I love giving out the gospel and candy to them. Something I don't get to do the rest of the year. Colossians 2, verses 16 and 17. Let no man therefore judge you in meat or in drink or in respect of any holy day or of the new moon or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but the body is of Christ. Believe it or not, to some people, Halloween is a holy day. So, if you judge someone who celebrates on this day, then I honestly believe you're judging someone's holy day. It might not be one of God's intended holy days, but it's a holy day nonetheless. Now I know some people may, try to tear me a new one for that, but I don't care. And let's see, there's one last place in Scripture that I want to visit. Let me see if I can find it here. This is a book that I rarely ever go to. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it's James. I know if some people have made it this far into the video, they're thinking, James? He's going to James? I have a reason. James is a very legalistic book in the Bible, and it's written to the Jewish people. But there is some good there's some good points made in these two verses, chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. Speak not evil one of another. So basically, when I believe someone tells another person, you should not be celebrating Halloween, because if you do,
you're going to hell.
That's speaking evil of another person.
Right.
Speak not evil one of another, brethren. The author specifically states brethren. Not unbelievers. He's talking to brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother and judgeth his brother speaketh evil of the law and judgeth the law. But if thou judge the law, thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. And like I said, this is a very legalistic book, James is. But he does make some points here in these two verses. Verse 12, there is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy, who art thou that judgest another. And that's God, of course. He is the only one who's able to judge people.
And he gave the laws.
And he did. He gave the Mosaic laws, which we are not under today. We're under grace. But, every year around this time, I notice on social media people who refer to themselves as grace believers, they seem to be more like condemnation believers than grace. And they seem to be void of compassion. What good is a person if they cannot have compassion for another? Yeah, if someone thinks that a father or mother should not be taking their little boy or little girl out trick-or-treating, that's their right to think that. But it's not their right to say, you shouldn't be doing this, or you're raising your kid wrong. No. Everybody has to do as they see fit, and I'm talking about parents.
Sure.
Because my mother and my dad, they did the best they knew how raising me, and well, I'm told that I came out pretty good.
Yes, he did.
But one of the main things is when you're busy judging someone else, you not only fail to look at what's inside of you, but you become filled with criticism. Yes, that's what I was looking for a word, and I couldn't think of it. Thank you. You become filled with criticism, and that leads to condemnation. It's sort of like when Yoda said in Star Wars, anger leads to hate,
yes.
and hate leads to the dark side. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, movie reference, but it's good. It
works for me.
But Yoda was right. Anger leads to hate when anger is unchecked, and anger leads to the dark side, evil. And if you're so filled with criticism, you let it fester in you, then when it comes out, you're gonna be aiming that toward everybody in your path. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't like this holiday, that's fine. But don't take it out on those who do enjoy this holiday and do use it to spend some quality time with their little boy or little girl. I'm Michael for Home Grace Bible Study. This is my mom. Please do subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you'll be notified of all new uploads. Please do like the video and share it. And also, have a happy Halloween. Till next time.